الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. As we continue in this tremendous treatise entitled Fataawa al-Hamawiyyah al-Kubra by the great Imam Shaykh al-Islam Taqiyuddin Ahmad ibn Abd al-Halim ibn Abd al-Salam ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani al-Dimashqi rahimahullah, who died 728 after the migration of our beloved Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Excuse me. As we continue, as the time now 7:27 p.m. Wednesday, February the 1st, on this evening of Wednesday, the year in accordance with the Gregorian calendar, 2023, which agrees on the Islamic calendar, is the 12th of this blessed month of Rajab, when the Hijri calendar was technically the evening of Thursday, Asad al-Khamis, or it is the year 1444 after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. We were continuing in the Athar where it said about what Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah, where he conveyed upon the great Imam Ahl al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah Ahmad ibn Hanbal al-Shaybani rahimahullah. You'll find that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah brought the chain of narrator, affirming this matter of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being above the heavens. You'll find that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah that he brought an abundance of nuqulat, a lot of aqwal, statements and chains that were conveyed, or chains of transmissions that were transmitted through those great ai establishing the belief of the Muslim that's binding upon every individual, and this affair is fardu ayn. It is a individual duty, rather it's the greatest of all duties, which is to learn one's aqidah and hold firm to it and grasp it with their mullah teeth, and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala abundantly to die upon it, in which every Muslim sets out to achieve that great goal until they reach that high level or that success that is requested from everyone or every one of us to die upon. You'll find that Imam Ahmad, he brought the chain of narrator upon another great Imam. Shaykh al-Islam says, قال حدثنا سريج ibn Nu'man. The Surayj ibn Nu'man, rahimahullah, was from Khurasan. And he resided in the great city at that time of Baghdad. Baghdad was a tremendous city at that particular time. It was known for being at the forefront of knowledge, technology, medicine. At that particular time, especially during the time of the Imam al-Shafi'i and other than them, from the great ai and the Imam Ahmad, that Baghdad was a great city. It was a great city for the Muslims, where, like we said, it possessed, and they were at the forefront of medicine, technology, and the likes, especially in affairs that's connected with the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this great Imam Nu'man ibn Marwan, who was from those great ai, as you'll find that those who narrated upon him was this great Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal al-Shaybani and Abu Zur'a wa Abu Hatim al-Raziyan. The great Imam al-Dhahabi said about this great Imam, Surayj is his name, Surayj ibn Nu'man. He said, كان من أعيان المحدثين, that he was from the prominent and the a'yan, meaning those who are known and specified from the people of hadith. So you'll find Imam Ahmad that he conveyed upon this great Imam Surayj ibn Nu'man قال سمعت عبد الله بن نافع الصائغ. You'll find these are ai conveying this aqidah upon another great Imam. So Surayj ibn Nu'man upon or relating the statement upon Abdullah ibn Nafi' al-Sa'igh. Abdullah ibn Nafi' al-Sa'igh was from those who had clung to the Imam Malik ibn Anas al-Usbuhi at this time, to the point where it said in history, it says كان يلازمه لزوما شديدا. Abdullah ibn Nafi' as-Sa'igh, they had clung to the great Imam Malik. A very stern, what? If you want to say, lack of better words, clinging. Meaning, how he used to what? Stick to the great Imam Malik in his time. In a very, very, very stern way. Having that what? Having that tenacity to stick with the great Imam in his time. But to the point, you'll find that Imam Malik, كَانَ لَا يُقَدِّمُ عَلَيْهِ أَحَدًا. You'll find that he never put anyone in the front over this great Imam, Abdullah ibn Nafi'. So that's to put in perspective this isnad. So you find, if you look in what Shaykh al-Islam conveyed, so you find these Imams are all in the chain. Listen, the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, known Imam. Then you have Imam Ahmad narrating upon Surayj ibn Nu'man, who's from the A'yan al-Muhaddithin, as Imam al-Dhahabi mentioned about him. And this great Imam related upon another one. His name was Abdullah ibn Nafi' as-Sa'igh, who's from the great students of those who had what? Was companions of the great Imam Malik. He said, قال سمعت مالك بن أنس يقول الله في السماء. So Abdullah ibn Nafi' as-Sa'igh with a ghain, قال سمعت مالك بن أنس. I heard the great Imam Malik ibn Anas يقول الله في السماء. Allah is above the heavens, وعلمه في كل مكان, and his knowledge is everywhere. What does it mean his knowledge is everywhere? Meaning there's nothing that happens in this existence, everyone, except that Allah has full knowledge of it. It's the meaning of it. He said لا يخلو من علمه مكان, that there's not a place that is void of his knowledge, meaning Allah has knowledge of everything. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware and knowledgeable of everything in this existence. Everything that moves to everything that's still. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has knowledge of it. Then, the great Imam, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he goes on to say, وَقَالَ الشَّافِعِي خِلَافُ أَبِي بَكْرٍ حَقٌّ قَضَاهُ اللَّهُ فِي سَمَائِهِ وَجَمَعَ عَلَيْهِ قُلُوبَ عِبَادِهِ. The great Imam, Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, that he said about the Khilafah, the Khilafah, or the Caliphate of those who will be the ruler for the Muslims, was started with the great Sahabi, who was the greatest of this Ummah after his Prophet, who's Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Al-Imam al-Shafi'i said, the Khilafah of Abu Bakr is the haqq, is the truth in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala qadaha Allah fi sama'ih, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had preordained above his heaven, and he gathered upon it the hearts of his servants. You'll find that while Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah, you'll find that in this book continuously bringing statements upon the great ai establishing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being above. Why? Because during his time and in our times, in these current times that we live in, these dark times we live in, you'll find that the Muslims have deviated in the affair of the belief that Allah is above the heavens. You'll find that so many Muslims have been affected by Greek philosophy, and they've been affected by statements that necessitates atheism and doubt concerning Allah's existence above the heavens, to the point where Shaykh al-Islam had to constantly bring what? Statements to establish this affair clearly. You'll notice that he keeps reiterating it and bringing more and more and more statements in order to affirm and confirm that this matter was related upon those who are the best of this ummah. And it wasn't nothing that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah was bringing anything new. Rather, this affair was known. It was something that was established, understood by those who were the best of this ummah. And this is what he was bringing in order to substantiate this belief in which he was calling the Muslims to return back to. And it was only for the benefit of the Muslims. The benefit of the Muslims, not for the benefit of Allah. Allah doesn't need us. Rather, it's the benefit of them. So the honor of the Muslims could be restored in order for the light of Tawheed and the word of Allah to become dominant and superior within the earth. And in order for that to happen, the Muslims have to be cleansed of the most filthiest of beliefs. And from the most filthiest of beliefs is to believe Allah is not above. And from the filthiest of beliefs is that Allah doesn't have certain characteristics that He has affirmed from Himself, of characteristics of perfection that befits the Creator of the heavens and earth. And those characteristics that Allah has conveyed to us about Him, that we will have no knowledge of knowing except that Allah had revealed it through His Prophet ﷺ, so we can know them. So you'll find that the Muslims deny that. It's almost as if you saying to Allah, "Oh Allah, even though you said it, I don't believe it." Or, "Oh Allah, even though you said it, what you meant is this." All of these affairs are what? Considered from the most uglified. He's fine. It's considered from the most uglified of beliefs, in which Shaykh al-Islam wanted to what? Remove from the belief of the Muslims in order for their honor to be restored, so the word of Allah can be dominant and superior. But the only way that can happen is to correct the beliefs, for Muslims to correct their beliefs in order for their honor to be restored. So you'll find that this was the belief from the great Imam Ahmad. Then he brings the statement of the great Imam al-Shafi'i, because you'll find from the Asha'ira that they're always trying to use as evidence and proof to substantiate their claim that Allah is not above statements from the scholars of the past. You'll find that they say, this is not what the four Imams were upon. We just read a statement of Imam Ahmad, we just read a statement of Imam al-Shafi'i, we just read a statement of Imam Malik, and we're going to read a statement of Abu Hanifa and the companions of Abu Hanifa, and from them was the great Judge Al-Qadi Abu Yusuf, and what he did to Bishr Marisi. As Bishr Marisi was those who were very stubborn and evil in their statements, where he used to say statements such as Subhana Rabbi al-Asfal. He used to say the most filthiest of statements, which is that glory be to my Allah who's below. What did Qadi Abu Yusuf, was the closest companion of Abu Hanifa, do with him? He was a judge. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So you'll find that Shafi'i, the great Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, he said, Khilafatu Abi Bakr haqqun qadahu Allahu fi sama'ih wa jama'a alayhi quluba ibadah. He said, the Khilafah, or the Khalifa, or the Khalif, or the Khilafah, the successorship or the rulership of Abu Bakr is the truth in which Allah had proclaimed above the heavens. And He gathered upon it the hearts of His servants. So, this is to prove and show what everyone, that the great Imam al-Shafi'i believed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also was above, clearly. You'll find that all these chains have been authentically reported in so much of the books of Aqidah. From them is the book by the great Imam Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi. And the Maqdisi, or the Maqdisiyah family, was a family that was blessed, in which a lot of our books that we study are from them. From them is Umdat al-Ahkam. From them is Ithbat Sifat al-Ulum. From them is Lum'at al-I'tiqad. All of them are from families that were ascribed to the family of what they call the Maqdisi family. There's another book called, for example, The Affirmation of the Aboveness of Allah by the great Imam Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi. But anyway, Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi also conveyed a statement upon Imam al-Shafi'i. So Imam al-Shafi'i believed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was above. There was another statement until the point he said that the Khilafah of Abu Bakr, meaning him assuming the power or the rulership of the Muslims, his successorship or his Khilafah, was the truth in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had proclaimed and had what? Determined and destined from above the heavens. In which you'll find that all of the servants who were the best of the worshippers of Allah at that time, all were in agreement. And from them were the what? Those who were the best of worshippers were the Sahaba. And the Sahaba, all of them agreed unanimously that the one who deserved the Khilafah after the message of Allah was who? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. But the point of the matter is, in this statement, what we're extracting from this, everyone, is that Imam al-Shafi'i was establishing two affairs. Number one is what? Of how Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu deserved the Khilafah after the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, in addition to what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being above the heavens. So that was two benefits that's extracted from this great profound statement of the best of this ummah after his prophet, who is who? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. Right, so let's keep going. The Imam Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he goes on to convey another statement which is in the Sahih, which is in the Bukhari, and others from the authentic reports upon the great Sahabi Anas ibn Malik. قال كانت زينب تفتخر على أزواج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم تقول زوجكن أهاليكم وزوجني الله من فوق سبع سماوات وهذا مثل قول الشافعي. Upon Anas ibn Malik, قال Zaynab, who's the wife of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, or one of the wives, and the Messenger of Allah عليه الصلاة والسلام, كانت تفتخر, that she used to brag, as we know from the nature of women, that they like affairs that are exclusive. Women like affairs that are exclusive for them, to the point where she used to brag over the wives of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, everyone? Till she used to say, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Zaynab, who? Bintu Jahsh. Zaynab bintu Jahsh, radiyallahu anha, from our mothers, said a statement saying that she used to brag, saying about the wives of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that she had something over them. Now listen to this. Taqul, your families married you off. Your families married you off. However, Allah married me from above the seven heavens. If you look to the narration of how Zaynab became married, it was an affair in which was revealed. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Zaynab would be his wife. So she used to what? She used to use this as a way to brag over the other wives. But the point of the matter is, look to her belief. Because we know this was a belief that was established to the greatest of this ummah. Who are they? The companions of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. And at the forefront of them is who? His wives. His wives. Radiyallahu an ummahat al-mu'mineen jami'an. May Allah be pleased with all the mothers of the believers. طيب, you'll find that she said, your families married you off. However, Allah married me from what? From above the seven heavens. A clear belief to establish that the great Sahabiyyah from the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, our mother Zaynab radiyallahu anha, believed with what? Full conviction, without any doubt, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was what? Above the heavens. That was the belief of the companions unanimously. Qatibatan, unanimously. Qatibah, without any type of what? Shadow of a doubt between them, without any ikhtilaf. Like we said, these affairs was not an affair that was just united upon amongst the Sahaba. This affair was united upon amongst the prophets, the messengers, and the angels. It's beyond the tabi'een and the atba' tabi'een, where that in itself is enough, because they have a great high level with us, within the hearts of those who believe in Allah in the last day. However, the affair goes beyond that. Like we said, the belief that Allah being above was a creed that was believed by all the prophets and messengers. That's not something that our prophet believed. All the prophets and the messengers believe Allah was above. In addition to the angels, the aqidah and the belief of the angels that Allah is above. So this affair, if you want to include in that, it's not just the final of all prophets to humanity, Muhammad bin Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam. In addition to that, the greatest of this ummah after his prophet, Abu Bakr, and all of the Sahaba, including those who came after them from the Tabi'een, and those who came after the Tabi'een, who are called the Tabi'een or the Atba' Tabi'een, who the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said, they are the best of this generation. The three generations in which he said, which will be or have the characteristic of khayriyah, of being the best. The affair goes beyond that, everyone. It's not just for them. All of the prophets and the messengers believe that Allah is above. All of them, unanimously. There's not one prophet, one messenger, except they all believe that Allah Ta'ala was what? above the heavens, above the throne. All of them. In addition to that, the angels also believe that Allah is above. Why? Because when they write down the deeds of the slave or the servant, they instinctively know where to go. Based upon this, the Muslims who believe that Allah is not above, is as if the angels don't know what they're doing. As if the angels don't know where they need to go, which is absolutely absurd. It's absolutely condescending to even think this type of thought, that the angels are confused. The angels know exactly where to go because they know where Allah is, and they obey His command without any hesitation. That's why when the angels come, they what, everyone? They instinctively go where? Above. At the time of Fajr and at the time of Asr, as it comes in the Sahihain, in the Bukhari Muslim, that they gather those two times, writing down the deeds of the servants, and then a Prophet ﷺ said they what? فَيَصَّعَدُونَ إِلَى رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ فَيَسْأَلُهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِهِمْ كَيْفَ تَرَكْتُمْ عِبَادِي قَالَ تَرَكْنَاهُمْ وَهُمْ يُصَلُّونَ وَأَتَيْنَاهُمْ وَهُمْ يُصَلُّونَ. As the Prophet ﷺ said, he said, for those who remained amongst you, the others ascend towards Allah. They ascend to Allah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked them concerning His servants, how did you leave my servants? Even though it says in the narration, Allah still knows and He's most knowledgeable. Meaning He doesn't need the angels. He doesn't need anything. But we know that the angels is an extra proof against us. Even though at the same time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need them. For you'll find, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, He asks concerning His service, and it says in the hadith clearly, Allah is the most knowledgeable concerning them. He says, how did you leave my servants? He says, we left them and they were praying, and we came to them and they were what? And they were praying. Fine. So those are the affairs you'll find of the great As-Sahabiyyah, Zaynab bint Jahsh, radiallahu anha, from our great mothers, believing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was above, and not only believing that Allah was above, she believed there were 7 heavens. She said it clearly in this hadith, which is in the Sahih, which is in the authentic narrations in the Bukhari, that the message of Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala married her from above the 7 heavens. Is it clear, everyone? Jade. Let's continue. So you'll find, like we talked about, so this great statement upon these great A'imma, let's start from the beginning a little bit. You have the great Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal al-Shaybani, which is established from the great A'imma of this nation. From the Muslims in general. Ahmad ibn Hanbal al-Shaybani, rahimahullah, Imam Ahl al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, conveyed upon another great Imam, Surayj ibn Nu'man. And that Surayj ibn Nu'man, like we talked about and said, as an Imam al-Dhahabi said concerning him, min a'yan al-muhaddithin, from the most prominent of those who stood out from the people of hadith. And his name was Surayj ibn Nu'man. So this great Imam conveyed upon another Imam, great Imam. From them is Abdullah ibn Nafi' as-Sa'igh, from those who were from the companions of Imam Malik, who clung to Ghaibat. He used to stick and cling to Imam Malik in a very staunch, stern way. But to the point, as we said, Imam Malik never used to give precedence over him, anyone. Abdullah ibn Nafi' as-Sa'igh said he heard from his Shaykh, Malik ibn Anas, said Allah is above the heavens. And His knowledge is everywhere. Meaning, His knowledge, there's nothing that happens in this existence except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has what? Full knowledge of it. There's not a movement in the heavens and the earth, nor blinking or twitching of any of us except Allah has full knowledge of it. Is it clear, everyone? That there's nothing in the heavens and the earth of harakat or sukunat, of movement or stillness, except that Allah has full knowledge of it. That's what He's meaning when He says that Allah's knowledge is everywhere. Is it clear, everyone? هذا الكلام بالعبارة نفسها نقل عن الإمام أحمد، وهذا الكلام الذي تقدم نقله من الأئمة إنما يختلف في العبارة والألفاظ فقط. المعنى واحد أي أن أئمتنا من التابعين. We've already mentioned this. You'll find that it says from the great A'immah, even though you'll find that the actual ibadah, like some of the words they used was different, but the meaning was one. That our scholars from the tabi'een and those who followed them, all of them gather upon this meaning, upon the belief that Allah is what? Above the heavens. That Allah is above, and Allah is above the throne. And there's something I want everyone to be attentive of and write this down. That the word al-arsh, the word al-arsh, it can be used as the word as-sama. Al-arsh, لأن العرش يطلق عليه السماء. Does the arsh, it could be used, what could be used as a meaning for it or in its place, as far as its wording, is the word as-sama. As-sama. As we know, sama, and linguistically in the Arabic language, is anything that's above. Sama can mean the clouds. Sama can mean the rain. Sama can mean the heavens. And the sama can also mean arsh, the throne. Anything that's high and above, yutlaq alayhi as-sama. What's utilized for it is the word as-sama. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in His highness. However, we said His knowledge is what? His knowledge is what, everyone? Jayyid. There's not anything of the creation except Allah has full knowledge of it. Everything. Everywhere, Allah's knowledge is known, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge of that affair. For verily, now we want to understand, and that we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being with the creation, based upon what we just mentioned now, that Allah being with the creation is a type of width of what? Of knowledge. Is it clear, everyone? Based upon what we just said, Allah's knowledge is everywhere. We extract from that what, everyone? The belief that Allah being with the creation is a type of width in what? In the ilm, in knowledge. Not a width of He Himself being with the creation. Is it clear? Even though at the same time, it's still a true what? Width. And it's not metaphoric. Somebody asked me that question yesterday. The word majaz. The word majaz, everyone, or something metaphoric, there's no metaphoric meanings in Kitab and Sunnah at all. The original affair of the word metaphoric was extracted from the Greeks. Greek philosophy, again, brought this word majaz. It was introduced until the point where the Muslims started to incorporate this affair within Revelation, until again, what came as a result of it? Something satanic. The metaphoric, or so-called breaking down affairs into what is considered real in metaphoric, is something in its origin which is a taghut. You'll find from the great Imam al-Allama, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, along with his great Tilmid al-Allama Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahumullah, saying that the word majaz is taghuti. You'll find that Ibn al-Qayyim put in this book called not Mukhtasar al-Sawa'iq, or if you want to call it al-Sawa'iq al-Mursala ala al-Jahmiyya al-Mu'attila. The great book. That is a tremendous book where a student of knowledge, if he's able to acquire that book, then buy it. It's called al-Sawa'iq al-Mursala, the sending of lightning upon those who negate and follow the belief of the Jahmiyya, who negate Allah's attributes. Ibn al-Qayyim put in that book, from the first chapters in it, he said, from the heads of the taghut, after he mentioned ta'wil, meaning distorting the meanings of Allah's names and attributes, he put from another affair. From those affairs he said, a taghut, or from the tawaghit, from the false idols that the Muslims adopted, was called majaz. Majaz. Is it clear, everyone? It's called majaz. You have the book called As-Sawa'iq al-Mursala, and then you have the second book which is summarized called Mukhtasar al-Sawa'iq. If one is not able to read As-Sawa'iq al-Mursala because it is a little lengthy, then go to Mukhtasar al-Sawa'iq. It's a summary of that book, The Sending of Lightning. But the point of what we want to extract is that the great Imam Al-Allama Ibn Al-Qayyim considered it what, everyone? He considered it a taghut. That majaz is considered a taghut. That the fact that you try to now introduce within revelation, within the book of Allah, or in the sunnah, the message of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam, majaz, then that's something that is what? You've incorporated of a taghut within the religion. So, number one, we want to negate that there isn't anything of majaz in the kitab, nor in the sunnah, the message of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam, at all. However, the ulama differ in regards to lugha, in regards to the Arabic language itself, they do differ. However, what is apparent in the strongest opinion that it doesn't even exist within the Arabic language. You'll find that from them that negates it is Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah and his Tilmid Ibn al-Qayyim, that it even does not exist in the language. And from the great Imam of this time that I've heard with my own ears say it, is Hamilul Liwa al-Jarh al-Ta'dil bihaq Rabi' ibn Hadi al-Madkhali hafidhallah wa ra'ah. As I heard him in my own lecture he was given in front of me. He said of the affairs pertaining to majaz that is totally negated. It's not in the kitab, it's not in the sunnah, even in the Arabic language it doesn't exist. Even though there are some from the scholars of the sunnah who say it does exist in lugha. However, if you was to look and compare the statements of what Shaykh al-Islam brings in order to negate it fully, you'll be convinced that even in the linguistic aspect of it, it doesn't exist. For example, a person was asking me, probably even online, what are you speaking about? What is majaz anyway? For example, so-and-so, Muhammad, or let's just say Bilal, who's sitting with us right now. Bilal fights in the field like a lion. Based upon the scholars of majaz, they say, I just said something metaphorically. You say, because in reality, he's not a what? He's not a lion. So it's something that's metaphorically speaking. So, because in actuality, he's not a lion. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah says that's a lie. Based upon the context, it's understood. When you say so-and-so is a ferocious beast in the field, that means based upon the context, what you're trying to say is that he's what? He's very brave and he fights very what? Very sternly. He's a stern, hard fighter. But it doesn't have to now break down the language to the point we have to break it down to what? 2 categories in order to so-called understand it. You don't have to do that. Based upon the context, it's understood what you're trying to say. You don't have to now break it down into 2 categories saying, oh, you're metaphorically speaking, because in reality, he's not a lion. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So those are the affairs you'll find that we mentioned in regards to the word majaz, that is negated in kitab and sunnah, and like we said, you find that the statements are very convincing upon what the great Imam Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah says, and in a conjunction with his great Tilmid student Ibn al-Qayyim, bringing point after point, proving that this affair even does not exist in the lugha. There was something that was negated, and in the past, nobody used to break language down into these type of categories in order to so-called bring better understanding for the people to understand. This was something that was negated. People understood everything based upon the context and based upon the meaning. It was understood. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Right. So you'll find that the word majaz is what? Negated. So let's go back to the word ma'iyah, Allah being with the creation. Is he with the creation? He himself? No. He's with the creation with his who? Within his knowledge. And at the same time, it's not metaphoric. It's what? It's real. Rather, you'll find the ma'iyah of Allah, of knowledge, is way deeper than us being with each other, with us being right next to each other. And all of it is considered haqiqiyah. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being with the creation in his knowledge is way more deeper than us sitting right next to each other. Due to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has knowledge of what's going on within ourselves right now that we don't even know. So what affair is deeper and more in depth? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge of everything, even yourself. Even you don't even know what's going on with yourself. and Allah has knowledge of it. If that's not a true ma'iyah, if that's not a true with of Allah being with the creation and knowledge, if that's not real, then what is? It's not metaphoric. It's real. It's haqiqi. Rather, it's the most what? In depth. And the most what? And the most comprehensive in regards to having knowledge of something in every type of way. Every shape, form, and fashion, if you want to say. In every way. For every cell in your body. For everything that's in your body. That is reality. There's nothing metaphoric about that. That's when we say the affair of ma'iyah, even though it's ma'iyah al-ilmiyah, or when you call it ma'iyah ilmiyah haqiqiyah, it is true knowledge where Allah is with the creation, His knowledge, it is haqiqiyah, it is real. And just because you say the word haqiqi, it being real, does not necessitate that it has to be Himself with the creation. Is it clear, everyone? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above, at the same time His knowledge is what? Everywhere. Necessitating that the ma'iyah, Allah being with the creation, is a with the creation that is real. However, it's a real as regards to what? His knowledge. Clear or not clear? Jayyid. So you'll find that Ahl Ilm that they say, for example, even amongst us, and this is a tremendous example I'm about to give. I want everyone to listen to this. This is a beautiful example. The Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, there were people who were with him in regards to his lineage, his family. But they disbelieved in him. And some of them were with him in defense. And they defended him. Alayhi salatu wasalam. And there were people at his time that had seen him, but they were upon kufr. All of that type of affairs, of them being with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though some of them disbelieved in him, and some of them even defended him, none of it benefited. Even though they were with him as far as what? In themselves, in their bodies. You understand? In their bodies, next to him, protecting him, and some of them, like you said, stood next to him. None of it benefited. None of us know the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, as far as how he looks, didn't live during his time, never stood next to him, never. I'm talking as far as in our body, physical bodies. We've never seen him, however we're with him. Why? What binds us to the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam? Our knowledge and what? Our belief. Rather us, inshaAllah, and our belief and our knowledge are more close to the message of Allah than those who lived during this time that disbelieved in him, even though some of them defended him and they stood next to him. Is it clear? You understand, everyone? So the affair of what merged us with the message of Allah and made us close to the message of Allah is what? It's our belief. We believe how he believed. That's what bonded us with the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is it clear, everyone? And on the day of resurrection, the same thing. The reason why we'll be raised along with the message of Allah on the day of resurrection is because of what, everyone? What's going to be the fundamental prime affair that bonds us with him? Our belief. Our belief. Our i'tiqad. So, even us, even though we never met the message of Allah, even though we never seen the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, but an affair that's more in depth than all of that, which is what? Belief of knowledge and what? And conviction as far as an i'tiqad. Even though we never lived during the same period of time as the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. And that affair is the strongest of all bonds than any other bond. Is it clear what I'm saying? This is a beautiful example in order to show that the word ma'a or with doesn't always necessitate that one has to be actually next to someone in order to so-called be with them. And that affair being what? Very strong. It's still haqiqi. It's still the truth. It's not what? It's not metaphor. I said, now you got it. You get it now? So there's no metaphor, meaning, metaphorically you're with the message of Allah. No, it's haqiqi. If not being with someone in belief and in mutaba'ah and in following, and in the belief in the message of Allah. If that's not haqiqi, then what is? Rather, that's the strongest of bonds that bond you with a person is what? Is their belief. That's why every person will be raised on the day of resurrection of what they follow. Why? Because of their belief in belief in that individual. So you're with them and where? In belief. Is it clear, everyone? Jay. Ahsantum. Mumtaz. So you'll find that the word kalimat al-ma', like we talked about, Shaykh, alhamdulillah, we don't have to mention all of his haqiqi. So the great Imam al-Shafi'i said, Khilafatu Abi Bakr haqqun qadahu Allah fi sama'ih wa jama'a alayh qulub ibadah. That the khilafah, the successorship of the great Sahabi, As-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, is the truth in which Allah preordained from above his heaven. And he gathered upon it the hearts of the servants. Like we said, the mahal al-shahid, the point of evidence is here. Allah preordained it from above his heavens, meaning while Allah was above, that affair was proclaimed from Allah, from above the seven heavens, and him being ascended above it, in which he gathered the servants, meaning the worshippers and the awliya of Allah upon them. Except you'll find that the most beloved of Allah, who were the Sahaba at that time, all of them unanimously agreed that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was the one that deserved the Khilafah after his Prophet ﷺ. So that's an affair to let one know there was something that if the awliya of Allah were pleased with, what was an indication that the one who's above the heavens was also what? Pleased with it. طيب. وفي الصحيح عن أنس بن مالك, like we said, we mentioned the statement of our mother Zaynab bint Jahsh رضي الله عنها from the أمهات المؤمنين. ذكر مثل هذه الآثار يفسر لكم النصوص، أي أن سلفنا من الصحابة والتابعين والتابع التابعين مجمعون على فهم نصوص العلو والاستواء فهما واحدا غير مختلفين. Like we mentioned, it said from our salaf is the companions and the two generations that followed them, who are called the tabi'een, meaning those who followed the companions, and those who came after the tabi'een, who are called the tabi'een. That is a consensus, ijma'. And we know that the ijma' consensus in our religion is considered a proof we have to accept, meaning the consensus of the companions and those generations that came, who the message of Allah described them of having khayriyah, being the best of this ummah. All of them gathered upon understanding the text of Allah being above. And that was one understanding which they did not differ in. And like we just mentioned momentarily, or we mentioned a moment ago, this affair was not only with them. It's those who are what? Beyond that. It's an affair of all of the prophets and the messengers. None of the prophets and the messengers believed Allah was everywhere. None of the prophets and the messengers believed that Allah was not above. None of them believed that. They all believed that Allah was above. Starting from Adam all the way up to the final prophet to humanity, Muhammad bin Abdullah. Adam was the first what? Prophet. Nuh was the first what? Rasul. Even though Adam was mukallam and he was a nabi, as it comes in the Sahih. Allah spoke to him and he was a prophet. Why? Because we know that he seen and heard the voice of Allah. In addition to the first Rasul, Prophet Nuh also believed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was above. All of the prophets and the messengers believed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was above the heavens. In addition to, like we said, to those who have no doubt we have concerning their state, who are the angels. The angels believe Allah is above, without any hesitation, and without any what? Reluctancy. They act based upon Allah's commands. Allah commands them, they do it. Soon as Allah commanded them to what? Ascend, they ascended. When Jibreel was commanded to what? Descend with the revelation, he descended. Allah commanded him in Jibreel. Where did he come from? When he came with the revelation, he came from above. And he descended with the revelation to the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. It doesn't take a rocket science genius to understand that Allah is above. And that when Allah commanded the greatest of angels alayhi salam, Jibreel, with the revelation, he descended with it. As you'll find that it comes in the the ayat in the book of Allah Jalla Sha'na, where He says, نزل به الروح الأمين على قلبك لتكون من المنذرين بلسان عربي مبين. As it says in the book of Allah, in the ayah, He says that the Ruhul Amin, the trustworthy spirit, Jibreel, descended with it upon your heart, so you could be from the warners, meaning the prophets, with a clear Arabic language. Is it clear, everyone? G. You'll find, as it says in the, let's finish, we'll stop right here. وهذا مثل قول الشافعي يريد أن يقول يريد أن يقول الشيخ كلام سلفنا من الصحابة. Well, we are, alhamdulillah, we already agreed. We already just mentioned that. Alhamdulillah. So let's keep going. And we'll stop here. We'll just read this other route quickly. And then we'll stop, inshallah. Let's keep reading what Shaykh al-Islam says. The story of the great Imam Abu Yusuf al-Qadi, the great Imam, who was the Sahib Abi Hanifa. Sahibu Abi Hanifa Abu Yusuf al-Qadi, the great judge. وقصته معروفة في استتابة بشر المريسي الكندي بشر المريسي الوليد الكندي. You'll find the story as it says until حتى هرب منهم لما أنكر الصفات وأظهر قول الجهن قد ذكرها ابن أبي حاتم الرازي وغيره. He said Bishop Narisi, until this great judge, he fled away from him. It says especially when he denied the attributes of Allah and he manifests the statement of Jahl al-Safwan, which the great Imam Ibn Abi Hatim al-Razi mentioned. You'll find that what happened, the statement is Abu Yusuf, the great Qadi, he was a judge. So Bishop Marisi came to him, or he was brought to him. You'll find it says, تنهاني عن الكلام وبشر المريسي وعلي الأحول فلان يتكلمون. It says you'll find that there was someone who tried to prohibit Abu Yusuf al-Qadi of what Bishop Marisi and this other individual who's with him called Ali al-Ahwal. They were speaking of tremendous statements or erroneous statements that were very evil concerning Allah. They said that Allah was everywhere. Abu Yusuf al-Qadi, when he heard this, he said, bring them to me. The great Qadi statement, Abu Yusuf. They said, what? He said, Allah is everywhere. He said, bring them to me. Ali alayya bihim. فانتهوا إليهم وقد قام بشر. He says until they were brought to him, until Bishop Marisi started to talk. فجيء بعلي الأحول وبالآخر الشيخ. For you'll find that when they were brought, Abu Yusuf said, وَنَظَرَ إِلَى الشَّيْخِ. There was also another elderly person that was with them. And he looked to him. He said, لو أن فيك موضع أدب لو قعتك. He said that due to the fact of mannerism, he said that I would have what? That basically I would establish the had upon you right now. In this moment. He said, فَأَمَرَ بِهِ إِلَى الْحَبْسِ. So he commanded him to be in prison. And that Ahwal, the Ali al-Ahwal was what? Struck as a punishment for him. And that he was what? Brought around the town to be humiliated. Meaning tied up on an animal and brought around. Due to the fact of what? These erroneous, grave, disgusting, filthy statements of saying that Allah is in everything. Which necessitates Allah is in feces, in urine, and in women's paddings, and during the month, and other filthy things. Based upon the fact that the Salaf had these deep meanings to understand what they necessitated, that's why they were very stern in regards to these filthy type of ideologies. And they were more dangerous, like we said, everyone, than the belief of LGBTQ and other than them. The people of the Son of the past understood that, the grave and dangerous statements and the magnitude of what they carried of what? Of evil and corruption. That's why they were very stern in this regard. And that's what happened in summary of what happened with the great judge, Abu Yusuf, who was the great companion of Abu Hanifa. So, if you ever wanted to now talk to those who've been affected by these type of ideologies, and they say Abu Hanifa wasn't upon that, look, bring the statement of Abu Yusuf. Say to them, it's known. Abu Yusuf al-Qadi was from the great companions of Abu Hanifa, and he was one of those who actually serviced the madhab. It was known. Al-Qadi Abu Yusuf serviced the madhab of Abu Hanifa. And this was his position in regards to people believing that Allah was what? Everywhere. Look how stern he was. To the point, like we said, he commanded that those who were Bishr Marisi from Ali and Ahwa, that they be in prison as these type of as a result of embracement or teaching or spreading these type of what? Beliefs. Is it clear, everyone? We'll stop here. We'll stop here, inshallah. Any questions about the lesson?
Can you explain what he said about his mannerisms?
Basically, he was an elderly man. He was an elderly man. I mean, it wouldn't be good to look at somebody who strike someone as an older man right here. Right. So he said from the aspect of manners, if it wasn't for that, me taking consideration of being more mannerly and how I do this affair, I would have struck you. You understand? Was to let you know that the people of Sunnah also knew the time and the place when to do certain things. It wasn't just because someone outside looking, you striking an old man, that's going to look, what are you doing? You understand? He said, if it wasn't for Mawdi'a Adab, meaning that you had some mannerism based upon you being elderly, I would have struck you. But due to the fact that we take in consideration what? Mannerisms and doing certain things at a certain time and in a certain what? Place. Is it clear? That's what he was saying. That's all. That's why he said, لو أن فيك موضع أدب لو أوقعتك. موضع أدب. Like it's a place to take in consideration what? To be mannerly. Someone now sees someone hitting or putting, not hit him, but or establishing the penalty or the prescribed punishment for someone elderly what looks very what? It look very strange. And it might be a reason why certain people would be what? Turned off. So that's the reason why is to let you know that basically he was taking consideration of what? Mannerisms. And people who at that particular time probably were observing. So anything else? Fadal.
About striking. What about the book about descending of lightning? Who's the narrator by it again?
Ibn al-Qayyim. It's called Sawa'iq al-Mursala. Descending of lightning upon al-Jahmiyyah al-Mu'attila. Descending of lightning upon the negators of the Jahmiyyah. As-Sawa'iq al-Mursala. Descending of lightning upon al-Jahmiyyah al-Mu'attila. It's a tremendous book. Great book. And I think it's never been taught. It's not really a book that's taught per se. It's more of a reference book. But it's very beneficial. The Shaykh al-Islam al-Allama Ibn al-Qayyim brings the different types of tawhut. There are not just mere idols as people think. There are others. And from them he mentioned the word majaz. There was a tawhut that the Muslims adopted, and as a result of it, it messed with their aqidah, and it caused it to be what? Tainted. It caused it to be tainted and tampered with. And as a result of it, some of them fell in misguidance as a result of it, of embracing the ideology of tawhut, and that tawhut was embraced inside the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You'll find that Al-Allama Muhammad bin Salih Al-Uthaymin, that he mentioned about majaz. He said that if we affirm majaz in the Kitab al-Sunnah, هذا يدل على أن هناك شيء في الكتاب السنة يصح نفيه. He said that would indicate that there's something in the Book of Allah and the Sunnah Message of Allah. If we removed it, it would be correct. If we took it out, it would be right. He said that's what majaz necessitates if we was to now incorporate it within revelation. He said, and that's absolutely what? Preposterous. That's evil. There's nothing in Kitab al-Sunnah that if we took it out, it becomes correct. So that's basically what he's saying. That the affairs revolved around, if I had the time, I would give a little bit more. We could probably talk about tomorrow because we got to stop. It's getting to be an hour. All the narrations that they try to use in order to show that majaz is permissible is all against them. You can flip it. For example, the hadith of the Siyam Ramadan, where they say that the Sahabi took a needle. The hadith or the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ ثُمَّ أَتِمُّوا الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. The ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, eat and drink until حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر, until the white thread becomes clear or distinct from the black thread. So the Sahabi took an actual needle and thread and he put it under his pillow, and he said that it didn't become clear and distinct to him. So the people of deviation said, see, he took the real meaning or the literal meaning. If he would have took the metaphoric meaning, which is the meaning of the white thread, meaning the whiteness of the horizon, or from the blackness of the horizon. If he took the metaphoric meaning, he would have been right, he got it. It had nothing to do with that. The khalal, if you go back to the hadith or the ayah, that his misunderstanding, it only came from what? Or excuse me, his mistake only came from him misunderstanding it. It had nothing to do with it breaking down into metaphoric and literal meanings. It had nothing to do with it. All it had to do with his understanding. So that's why in the hadith, he went to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and attained the proper what? Meaning. That's it. It was over. So now it's still upon its what? Literal meaning. Meaning the white thread of the what? Of the horizon. From the what? Black thread of the what? Horizon. That's it. It had nothing to do with literal or metaphorical. It had nothing to do with it at all. Just had to do with the what? Understanding. That's it. But that's what I've heard some of their evidences. They wrote a book and I read it and I laughed. I said, what kind of nonsense is this? They said, so the ayah said, metaphorically speaking, that's how he would have understood the ayah properly. How it had nothing to do with metaphor. Just had to do with him having a wrong understanding, and the Messenger of Allah clarified it. That's it. Over. Is it clear, everyone? Fine. We'll stop here. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.